What is up, my fellow Germans? This is dried out pickled ass hairs here, back again with some more communist propaganda. Just kidding, this is the Perpetuating Party of Patriots, and today, surprisingly, we are doing another commentary video, and thank God this one is not drama related. This is going to be more so focused on critiquing other people's videos, pretty much, or just giving my thoughts on other people's videos, and today, this is a very surprising one because we are actually responding to a tier list video, and you're probably gonna be surprised on who this one is on, but it is Bob's Burgers Fan Zone. Now, again, like I've said, I do like him, but he does have a couple videos or has done a couple things that I disagree with, and this one is gonna be responding to his SpongeBob seasons tier list, or in parentheses, aka my personal breakdown of SpongeBob, or, well, that's the parentheses in the title. And, if I'm being honest, this is one of the worst SpongeBob season tier lists I've seen. Now, I'm not bashing his opinion, and there are definitely worse tier lists out there, like ones that just have everything before the first movie at God tier and, like, nothing to top them, and they're like the most perfect things ever, and have everything after it at the bottom tier with some vague shit like it's not from the pre-movie era or some shit like that, and they don't explain their reasons at all. But wow, this is, now I'm not saying I have to agree with the tier list for it to be any good, but for the start of it, it's probably one of the most generic tier lists that I've ever seen. But again, I'm not bashing his opinion, it's just I also feel like some of the reasons he gives for these placements are pretty weak, but let's start it off. Now, he does put the first three seasons at the top tier, which, okay, I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily disagree with, although I'd probably say season one would probably be towards maybe like the bottom of the top tier, or the highest of the second highest tier. But yeah, I've also heard the user Matthew Lucas keep saying this season is, quote, average, which he hasn't really given any reasons as to why or tried to explain anything, so I don't know what to say there. But I think he says something around, or I think Bob Burger says something around season 4 or so when he gets to ranking that. But yeah, let's just move on to where I start really disagreeing with his placements.
As in the post first movie. And we're going to start with season 4, which, in my opinion, was the best post season one. But I'm going to start ranking it. But I think this one, I'm going to start ranking this one in good. Because, now this season was, this season was pretty good, I will say. It's not the first 3 seasons, but, like, it's just it totally this season just like SpongeBob still I feel like SpongeBob still had a decent amount of charm and, like, stuff put into that. I mean, I know, like, Steven Hillenburg left the show after the first movie, so, I guess things weren't the greatest, and, but I feel like a lot of the moments in the episodes were pretty memorable, and a lot of them stuck in my head, and I'm sure there's a lot of people, a lot of the moments got stuck in your head.
Okay, and what do you know? The one of the starts of the biggest disagreements is when he starts talking about season 4. Now, if I now this is just my personal opinion, but I actually think season 4 is among the top 3 seasons of the show. And I feel free to call me crazy all you want, and I have stated this opinion before, but I actually think season 1 is weaker than season 4. I think season 4 is better than season 1, and I'll give my reasons starting now. Now, the reason why I think season 4 is better than season 1, and ironically why I think season 1 is the weakest of the golden era, seasons 1 through 4, is there were, honestly, while it did have a lot of really classic episodes and ones that were really good, like Pizza Delivery, SB129, Karate Choppers, the first Mermaid Man Barnacle Boy episode, and there were other ones too, but I'm just gonna be honest, there were actually a decent amount of episodes that were not bad, but they weren't really noteworthy, or like they're kind of in that boat of being, it's a pretty good episode and there's nothing I could really say after that. Like, some of the episodes that I can think of when it comes to that are namely probably Boating School, Sandy's Rocket, okay, now I'm struggling to think of, Home Sweet Pineapple I thought was just kind of in that boat of just being okay, but not really that noteworthy. And there were a couple others in that boat too, but those are the ones I could really think of. However, season 4, there were still a couple of those episodes that were in that boat as well, but for the most part, actually, especially in the first half, season 4 had a lot of really fucking good episodes. Namely, Fear of a Krabby Patty, Shell of a Man, The Lost Mattress, pretty much most of the episodes in the first half. Dunces and Dragons, Steel Crane, Trusty Towers, and there's ones towards the later half too. Like, personally, I thought Karate Island was pretty cool. Whale of a Birthday, particularly for the Boys Who Cry parody, or the boy band parody that they had in that one. Mermaid Barn Boy Sits. I actually think that's an underrated episode. Not gonna lie, and yeah, and this is kind of my biggest issue with the tier list, mainly just how he's going for the rankings of the seasons. It's particularly that it seems like he's equating memorability with if something is actually good or not. Now, I'll explain now why I disagree with that sentiment. And the thing is, memorability or how much you remember something when it comes to a show is not necessarily on the same quality on if it's actually good or not. Because here's the comparison that I would draw to it. There are things that I have seen that are really memorable, but are not memorable for how good they are, but are more so memorable for how bad they were. Like, for example, a movie that I can think of so far that fits that category perfectly is The Room, or Cool Cat Saves the Kids. Yes, they are very memorable. However, they are not memorable for the good reasons. They're memorable for how bad they were. And there's some other things that I have seen that I actually remember being pretty good, but they just don't stick with me, or think they're that, or I don't think they're that memorable. Like, for example, some of those episodes that I mentioned in the first seasons of SpongeBob, and some other episodes towards down the line, or maybe there's some other shows or movies that I would put in that boat, but those are what I can think of. But yeah, I also think he's kind of conflating liking something with thinking something's good. Now, there is a difference also between if you liked something or if you think something is good or not. Like, for example, there are songs from Limp Bizkit, for example, that I do honestly kind of like, but I couldn't be foot to say if they were actually good or not, because their catalog of music consists of really bad songs, but I find them either guilty pleasures or, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like them. Like, Rollin', for example, I think that song is honestly kind of annoying or bad in terms of it, but I don't know, there's just something about it that I like. But yeah, basically the moral of the story here is there is a difference between liking something and thinking something's good, and Bob seems to kind of be conflating that, and that's kind of a decent issue with the way this video is, or the way this tier list structure is. But anyways, let's move on to the next portion.
All right, now we go on to season 5, which I'm also going to put in good, just because this season, towards the end of season 5, like most of season 5, I thought was pretty up there. Like, I definitely found enjoy most of season 5. I definitely found quite enjoyable. But you guys probably could tell, like, towards the end of season 5, like, I thought, like, you could see that the show was starting to, somehow start going a little downhill. Like, they were, starting to run a little out of ideas a little bit, and you know everything, just like you could tell, like, the show was just not getting as much charm. Like it didn't have nearly as much charm as the first three seasons and a vast majority of season four and a vast majority of the fifth season. But
Okay, this is one of the things in the video that he says that I'm not gonna lie, I actually agree with. For the first half of season 5, I'm gonna be honest, it's actually really great, and there's a lot of really strong episodes in this season, namely Friend or Foe, Spy Buddies, Crabs a la Mode, Roller Cowards, and there were quite a few, but I'd say also throughout the 5th season, there's also those episodes that are kind of in that season 1 boat. They're either pretty good or maybe okay, but they're not really noteworthy, but there was one huge flaw in this season, in my opinion, that I would say really drags it down from being as good as the first four, and that is this is where some of the most infamous and, in my opinion, really bad traits of this kind of era of SpongeBob started kicking in, and that is mainly with how the characters were starting to transform. I guess you'd say, namely Patrick, because I think this is truly the season where the Patrick's a prick episodes, or Patrick being a prick, really started to take form. Namely, one of the episodes that I would say are a perfect example of this is Pat No Pay, which that episode it is a short, but most of the episode just consists of Patrick wanting to basically pretty much just steal food from the Krusty Krab and not wanting to pay for it, and also smashing Mr. Krabs' property for pretty much no other reason but just being a dick. But yeah, and there were also some really honestly nasty episodes that I feel like relied way too much on gross out and were just really just gross in general, like Fungus Among Us, and then you have SpongeBob just kind of transitioning from naive but kind-hearted and likable to pretty much just a spoiled brat. The episode that I think is emblematic of this is Waiting, where he was literally just sitting at the mailbox so he could get a just so he could get a toy. And this season also holds some of the worst specials of SpongeBob, namely being Atlantis Scorpanus and Whatever Happened to SpongeBob, or Who Bob Wet Pants. Now that one I don't think is that bad, but there wasn't very much to like about it. And Atlantis Scorpanus was filled with a lot of really cringy and just really bad musical numbers, and that really also just shows that this was also where the song started to slip to. But yeah, and I will say that towards the second half, this is where it kind of starts transitioning into scumbag bad level territory. Like, I don't know what episodes exactly, but I'd say the season started or ended on a really low note. But yeah, now let's transition into where the huge disagreements start coming in, and that is season 6 and onwards.
not as much as the other seasons. Okay, now we're getting into more of the average seasons. Like I say, season 6, 7, and 8 were all just average. Were all just really average seasons, in my opinion.
Can you take a guess what I disagree with there? I mean, if one of my previous videos, just the title alone, isn't emblematic of what I'm thinking, yeah, it's him putting seasons 6 through 8 all in average territory. And, yeah, I think it's pretty. I think you guys know what I think of season 6 and 7 in particular. Yeah, these seasons are honestly just close to being fucking garbage. Namely, season 6 and 7, but 8 is very close to being there, and I might as well go into a little bit more detail on why I think they're deserving of the bad or terrible category, and it is, you know how I kind of started talking trash about the second half of season 5, or how a lot of the really bad traits of things that are just really bad in SpongeBob were starting to form in season 5? Well, season 6 through 8, this is where they started to go full force and added even more really bad qualities to SpongeBob. One of the first ones is mainly how Squidward is treated in these seasons, and yeah, here's what I mean by that. There is a term that has been coined by the SpongeBob community named Squidward torture porn. Now, if you're asking what those are, basically, in a lot of the episodes in these 3 seasons, Squidward gets punished. A lot. Now, this wouldn't be an issue if it weren't for him not really doing anything to deserve it in these episodes. Now, in the earlier seasons and foreshadowing towards the modern era or the post-sequel era, in those episodes, Squidward actually deserved what he got, and he was just being a dick to the SpongeBob and Patrick, and he actually got what he deserved. Like, namely, episodes like Club SpongeBob, for example, or I'd say probably Nautical Neighbors or Fools in April, which in that one, Squidward actually ends up apologizing for it. But yeah, in those seasons, Squidward did things that actually warranted him getting punished. However, in a lot of seasons 6 through 8, he doesn't really deserve any of really what he gets, and he just ends up getting punished for just being Squidward, pretty much, or pretty much just no reason. Episodes that are very emblematic of that, well, you'd probably guess what the first one I'm going to mention, it is Boating Buddies. Yeah, in this episode, also, well, in these seasons, the characters started getting really flanderized as well. Like SpongeBob, he's kind of just got that spoiled brat territory, that spoiled brat nature, although this one adds a new one to the list of really bad character traits. That is, he is a fucking creepy-ass stalker in this season. Namely in Season 6, but he carried over some of those traits in Season 7 as well. Episodes that I can think of, well, more so also Squidward being tortured and SpongeBob being a fucking creep, are Squid's Visit and Choir Boys. Especially Choir Boys. That's honestly just one of the worst episodes of SpongeBob I've ever seen. It's really fucking bad. And another trait in SpongeBob that was added in this season, or, well, not really added, but came into full fucking force in this season, or in these seasons more so, is Patrick went from being dumb, but funny and really likable and kind-hearted, and also being SpongeBob's friend, to just being a fucking psychological torturing dickhead. Yeah, Patrick, he is dumb, and he's still very dumb, but it's not the funny or charming kind of dumb. It's more so the I wish I could fucking erase you from existence type of dumb. And also, he's just being a dick to those who he's supposed to be friends with, like SpongeBob, for example. And the episodes where Patrick is a very exceptional dickhead, or is very noteworthy for being a dickhead, are the card where there's actually a line in this one. He admits that he tries to vary his stupidity to keep you on your toes, so he's pretty much just using that as an excuse to be a dickhead, which is very lovely in my opinion. And another one that is very noteworthy of him being a dickhead is Yours, Mine, and Mine, which yeah, I don't really think I need to explain, but one of the biggest reasons why he's a dickhead in this one is, well, he's got that really childish accent that's a SpongeBob, but yeah, let's just say SpongeBob is just trying to be nice to Patrick and get him kind of a Krabby Kitty meal toy, and Patrick just fucking hoards the thing, and even though they agreed to share the toy, Patrick just wants to keep it all for himself, and he even eats it at the end to add that even more level of being a dickhead. And then there's the infamous Pet Sitter Pat, where he is just straight up fucking torturing Gary, namely by literally using a fucking flamethrower as a substitute because Gary didn't want to take a bath. But yeah, there are more episodes of these examples, but those are some of the most noteworthy ones. And then you also get a whole kind of season arcs, like, if you want to call it that, like the Legends of Bikini Bottom, or I think it's Legends of Bikini Bottom, not to be confused with the Legends of Bikini Bottom, but these types of arcs alongside the Vacation kind of side arc, I guess you'd say. I know it's weird talking about SpongeBob and arcs, but Yeah, a lot of these just really served as filler, and not really the good kind. Like, for example, the episode in the Legends of Bikini Bottom, the main drain, there is a lot of fucking filler and a lot of just them stalling for time, I guess you'd say. And it takes, let's just say, quite a bit of time to even get to the main plot of the episode. Another example of that type of filler is Toy Story Doom, where they're just SpongeBob and Patrick are just fucking around, and yeah, and not even the entertaining type of filler, just really fucking irritating. And that one, I think Patrick could be considered a prick in that one too. But yeah, I think I talked very long enough about why I think season 6 through 8 are pretty bad. Now, season 8, the reason why I don't consider it as bad as season 6 and 7 is there are definitely quite a bit of bad episodes in this season, but not nearly as much as season 6 and 7. And I'd say in terms of specials, season 8 was actually one of the best seasons. Hello Bikini Bottom and It's a SpongeBob Christmas were actually pretty great specials, and they even had some more tolerable ones, like the first episode of the Vacation side filler arc, I guess you'd say. But yeah, let's see if Bob defends these seasons or gives any decent defenses for them.
And the reason I say that is because, well, I'm gonna tell you guys why season 6 and 7. Season 6 and 7. If you guys know your SpongeBob, you will know that season 6 and 7 had most of the, if not some of the worst episodes of most of the worst episodes that a lot of people most of the episodes that a lot of people don't like, that a lot of people don't tend to like, myself included, are in season 6 and 7. But I personally thought like, because well, season I know a lot of episodes from I know episodes from season 6 and 7 that get a lot of backlash are House Fancy, the Splinter, those are two of them, and I believe yeah, and then those are two from season 6, and I know and then I think there were some other, yeah, and I think season 6 and 7, some other ones they had were One Course Meal, A Pal for Gary, Stuck in the Ringer, and a couple others I'm probably not thinking of, but yeah, those are some of the episodes that get a lot of backlash. Honestly, I can understand why with House Fancy, because there's the infamous toenail scene where the end of the table gets on Squidward's toe, and like it's all like it just looks really disturbing, like the way it just looks kind of disturbing, like the way it is. And then there's the splinter, where SpongeBob gets the splinter on the floorboard in the kitchen of the Krusty Krab, and how, like, towards the end of the episode, where, spoiler alert, but where, like, the splinter just, like, spurts or something, it just looks really gross, and like it's just really disturbing. So yeah, not something that I would quite want, not something that I would quite really would say. That type of stuff I can understand. It didn't really sit well with me either. And then there were some of the other episodes. I'm gonna say this: A Pal for Gary, I personally didn't mind. Yeah, call me crazy, a lot of guys, but I personally did not mind A Pal for Gary. I mean, like, I understand, like, the monster or whatever it is, like, whatever it is, because, Puffy Fluffy or whatever it is, the thing that's, the little creature thing that SpongeBob gets for Gary, because he thinks Gary is lonely, or something, he gets it to keep Gary company, but, things don't turn out quite the way they seem, because SpongeBob ignored the lady's warning or something that those things are very unstable around other pets. So yeah, the fact that it turns into a monster, like it wasn't that creepy, but like, I mean, it was, it was a little, it was just a little, it was a little strange and out of the ordinary. I will definitely say that, but overall, I mean, like, it's a cartoon. SpongeBob's a cartoon, and what more could you really want? Like,
Okay, that didn't quite go the way that I thought it was going to, I guess you'd say, but, now time to talk about what I disagree and what I agree with on this one. Now, he starts mentioning a lot of the infamous ones that I think even a couple that he mentioned I actually talked about in the last segment, but namely the part that I want to point to is his part about a pal for Gary. Now, I do think it is a bit overhated, but not even because any of the points that are constantly brought up are even invalid. I think it's mainly just because of people saying that this is the worst episode of the show, which there are two more that there are a couple others that I actually consider worse than A Pal for Dairy, but honestly, this is really one of the episodes where I'm honestly just gonna have to agree with the majority. It is a fucking terrible episode, and I'd say one of the biggest reasons why it's a terrible episode is now this is another trait of these three seasons in particular that not only extends to Squidward, but actually extends to other characters as well. Some of these guys get the really shit hand, I guess you could say, and they don't even deserve it. Like Gary in this one, and yeah, he just ends up going through a lot of suffering and not even like the kind of action packed, kind of entertaining type of way. Just the really uncomfortable and you poor thing type of annoying. And he mentions, okay, this is going to be a spoiler alert for the later part of this video, but he puts season 9 in the bad tier because the characters, quote, got stupider, like SpongeBob getting stupider. However, I don't know why he's not applying that to this one, because A Pal for Dairy and in other episodes too, he's naive and stupid, but it's just like it's quite surprising and quite astonishing how stupid he is, especially in this one. Like when Puffy Fluffy is literally about to eat and probably kill Gary, SpongeBob is literally telling Gary, "Yeah, put Puffy Fluffy down right now. You better do that, Gary. How could you be this naughty and other shit?" But yeah, it's how can you be also that inconsiderate of your own fucking pet? But yeah, and he also says something towards the end of the episode about Gary, ironically. And yeah, it's just again, Gary did not deserve what he went through, and he also mentioned one, and well, actually, to say something about Pal for Gary, ironically, literally the best part of that episode was how SpongeBob says enchiladas. I am not kidding, but yeah, he also mentions one course meal and Stuck in the Ringer, and yeah, I think those episodes actually deserve the hate they get too. Now, for one course meal, there was one part that I actually liked about it, and that was the opening part, the battle of with SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs trying to keep the formula from Plankton. That part was actually very entertaining. I thought it was pretty cool. Although this is another episode where, ironically, someone gets tortured for no reason and gets the unfair treatment and doesn't get any justice. And that is Plankton. Yeah, he just ends up getting very tortured, and not even for real. Now again, Plankton is technically considered the villain, but Jesus, they go really fucking far with this one, and it's mainly how Mr. Krabs exploits his daughter Pearl and Plankton having a phobia of whales. But yeah, let's just say Mr. Krabs just goes fucking psychotic in this episode. If you guys now we go psychotic if you haven't seen the episode already. SpongeBob informs Mr. Krabs that Plankton is lying out on the sidewalk, and Mr. Krabs literally laughs at him for doing it. Now, usually I'm kind of against the whole anything mean-spirited is bad thing, but and I think it mainly deals with how mean-spirited it is, or how it's used to like convey your point, let's just say, but here Mr. Krabs is just straight up fucking evil. Not mean or just a bad crab, I guess you'd say, but straight up fucking evil, because yeah, he did kind of have those moments in the earlier seasons, but let's just say he had a heart, but he doesn't even have that in this episode, and it really just did that. It was really just character derailment for Mr. Krabs, and okay, I could probably talk more about these seasons and how bad I think they are, but these segments have actually been going on for a surprisingly long time, but anyways, let's cap this off with his segment about season 9 and 10 and how they're somehow weaker than 6 through 8, which I heavily disagree with, but anyways, let's move on.
And we're gonna start with season 9, which we're gonna start with season 9, which I'm putting in bad. And the reason why I'm saying I'm putting it in bad is just because like the reason why I'm putting this in season and bad is mainly just because like not every episode, like I've seen a couple episodes from it, and I know you guys have heard me say the show that I thought those seasons were awful. But I guess in terms of this tier list, now that I think about it, there probably were a couple of episodes from like the HD seasons, like after season 8, like that I thought were alright, that I thought were like okay, but like
Okay, this small little thing isn't going to be as long as the other ones, but I think this is ironically kind of a flaw with this tier list as well, because he just admits that he's only seen a couple episodes from 9 and beyond, and not even, not all of, but not even most of the season. Now, this is just my humble opinion, but when you're doing a season tier list of a show, you should at least see at least a majority of the seasons before you make the tier list. Now, again, I can understand someone calling me a hypocrite for that, because I put seasons 10 and 11. I didn't even rank them on the tier list because I admitted that I haven't seen them, but that's kind of why that's kind of why I didn't rank them, because I haven't really seen them, so I can't judge them. Although I am currently watching through season 11, and I'm actually really liking what I've seen so far, but anyways, now on to what I have to say to his reasons for why 9 is bad.
I don't know. There were a couple episodes from this that I thought were just okay, but like a lot of them I really didn't care for because and this is kind of the start of SpongeBob where they started, like well, it wasn't really the start of it, but this was kind of just gradually going in because I think before then, like you could see SpongeBob got a little bit more stupider than he usually was, and Patrick got a little more stupider than he usually is, even though Patrick's pretty stupid and originally, but in like more of a likable way. Like I felt like Patrick and SpongeBob, like they like the characters started getting stupid, but like not in a likable way, in my opinion. Like it was more like an unlikable way, kind of like Family Guy. It's kind of like Family Guy in a way, how Peter got really stupid, but like and he just like became and he was just really rude and stuff, and not in a very good way. Like that's kind of how I see. I feel like the earlier the seasons are, like the characters are a lot more likable in terms of SpongeBob and like a couple other things. Like the characters are just a lot more likable earlier on, but like the later they get, like they just end up becoming less likable in my opinion, and I just don't really see why I should like them.
Okay, that reason is being applied to 9. And here's what I have to say about that. Very cap. Just I don't know if you're wearing a hat on this one, or if behind the camera you're wearing a baseball cap of any kind, but I think you should be, because I think you're really capping on this one. Now, here's the main reason why I say that. He's saying this to 9, and he also said that the earlier the seasons, they're more likable. Now, if you think that, that is okay, although, just one question that I have. Could you at least give some reasons why the characters are supposedly worse in this one than they are in season 6 through 8? Because okay, he mentioned SpongeBob and Patrick in particular for being more stupid. Now, I did reference that line from the card earlier, and that kind of gives a little bit of reason, or kind of just shows Patrick's why Patrick is supposedly stupid, but yeah, I don't know why you think SpongeBob and Patrick are more dislikable in this one than they are in season 6 through 8. Because, okay, with Patrick in particular, now there are quite a bit of episodes, namely that I could list from season 6 through 8, where Patrick is a huge dickhead, and those are ironically The Card, Yours, Mine, and Mine, Pet Sitter Pat, Stuck in the Ringer, and there's other ones too. But with season 9, the only real episode where I could really say he's like that is the Fishbowl, and that's one out of however many episodes are in season 9. But when it comes to actually how Patrick is overall in the season, yeah, he is stupid, and he's not as funny as he is in the first three seasons, but there's not really any episodes where he's actually a huge dickhead, or I really found him, or where I really found him dislikable in season 9. And yeah, the episodes that were actually centered around Patrick in the season, I actually thought were really good. Like, Patrick Man, for example. Now, yes, he is a bit of a jerk in this one, but the thing is, he actually gets punished for being a jerk in this one. Unlike the previous seasons where Patrick got off scot free, but in this one they actually learned how to punish him, and also like with Mr. Krabs for being insanely greedy, he gets punished in that by for being greedy in this one. And what's in Patrick, I thought this was a really good Patrick episode, and I thought he was really entertaining in this one. And Patrick the game, I actually found him kind of funny in this one, and yeah, I think that's probably one of my favorite episodes from this season. And I guess to also defend why I think season 9 is better than season 3, and why I actually thought this is the start of where SpongeBob started to pick up again, is the writing just in general, I think, is considerably better than it sits through 8. Now, I think as Bob has said this on a stream about 9, and I think he said that the reason why he hates the modern episodes of SpongeBob or seasons, is because they were dumbing down the writing for kids, or were just dumbing them down. But I'd have to majorly disagree with that, because with season 9, now again, completely ignoring the targeted demographic for who they're aiming these at, I think season 9 actually overall had very good writing. And now this could partially be attributed to Steven Hillenburg coming back in the second half, but I just thought it was better written in season 9 than it was in season 6 through 8. One of the biggest examples for this is the episode Bulletin Board, which is the whole episode is actually a metaphor for social media, and I think it provided a lot of really good social commentary, honestly. And Patrick could be considered a little bit of a dick in this one, or at least on the surface, but he actually had decent intentions, and it was actually pretty sympathetic, actually. And yeah, I just thought it was a really cool social commentary, and I'd even say some of the one-liners in this season were really funny. And one thing that I love about season 9, and I'm happy they actually continued in the later seasons, is they actually started shining the spotlight on some more minor characters, or gave other characters their own centered episodes, like Pearl and Larry, for example, like Mall Girl Pearl and Larry's Gym. I think they also actually executed them pretty well, and also they learned how to make Squidward episodes where he gets punished, but actually have them work, like the one that I mentioned before, Patrick the Game. Yeah, Squidward is kind of at the butt of the jokes here, and is kind of getting punished, but he's being a huge dickhead to Patrick for just wanting to create some fun games. So I think he actually deserved it. Now, I know some people would probably argue that, but I don't really think so. And there's other episodes here, too. Now, notice how I'm mostly talking about the second half, and that's because, honestly, I think the first half of season 9 is pretty close to being in that season 6 through 8 boat, but they did start to pick up in the first half. It's kind of like the season 8, although I think season 8 is actually better than the first half of 9, but I think it's mainly the second half of season 9 and onwards where I think they really started to pick up, and where I could actually say SpongeBob started getting good again since season 5, because up until season 9, in my opinion, 5 was truly the last good season of SpongeBob. But again, I guess my main flaw with this tier list video, well, Marshall the video itself. Now, again, the tier list placements are kind of generic, but I don't really think that's an issue, because, again, I'm not saying he doesn't actually think these things, and I think he's just doing it to be a bandwagoner. I don't think that. It's just... But, yeah, and although the one part of this tier list that isn't generic was actually putting season 6 through 8 in average, which, again, I disagreed with, and explained why I disagreed with, but I guess the main reason why I didn't like this video very much, or why I didn't like this tier list very much, was I don't really think he backed up his stances very well, or gave really good reasoning, or tried to argue his side very well, and I guess that's the biggest reason why I didn't really like this video, or tier list video, very much. Now, When it comes to the placements and reasons, this isn't quite. I wouldn't say this is the worst SpongeBob tier list that I've seen. Like I said before, I think there's one from this guy like C&B Extra or whatever his name is that I thought was hugely capped, mainly in terms of the placements. But I'd probably have to watch the rest of the video. But yeah, personally, I didn't like this tier list very much. Now, again, nothing against Buzzburger. I still like him, and again, this is solely an opinionated video and just me explaining my disagreements with his list because he's completely in his right to think how he thinks and think what he thinks of these SpongeBob seasons and other stuff. But again, this is mainly a video for critique purposes. But anyway, guys, I am the Perpetuating Party of Patriots, and see you guys in the next video.